Hello, everybody. How are we all doing today? I hope we're all doing very, very well. This is the ASMR Nerd, as you all know, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, a little unique in the pursuit of something that is both relaxing and interesting. Today we're doing an ASMR developer interview, which, to the best of my knowledge, is the first time this has ever been attempted. I think. So this is going to be interesting. I have two very special guests today from Fishing Cactus, the developer of Epistory, which most of you probably know fairly well. I have here Thibaut and Sophie, and they're both going to be here chatting and answering your questions about the game and indie development and these things as we go along. So I'm going to turn it over to, let's say, Thibaut. Perhaps you can say hello and just say a few words about yourself and what you do.
Hello, so I'm the programmer of Epistory. I've been working on for Fishing Cactus for 8 years now. I'm 32 and that's it, I guess.
Okay, that's a very good, very succinct introduction. So Thibaut can probably answer a lot of your technical and perhaps some design questions about the game. And then we've also got Sophie here. Sophie, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yes? No, thank you. Just kidding.
No, that's it. We're done here. All right, pack it up, folks.
Yeah, right. Hello everybody, I'm Sophie. I've been fishing cactus for 6 years and I'm the PR manager there. So I'm doing a lot of more of that, doing community management and happiness management and a lot of kind of different things.
I like the term
Um,
happiness management. That's good.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I do. You can ask Thibaut. It's just like it's very complicated work just to cheer up everybody and make sure that everyone is okay and feel great in the team and wants to continue to make great games together.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very important.
Of course.
And Thibaut said that he was 32, so maybe I should say that I'm 30.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
weird presentation giving our
It's
age.
just, yes. Age,
And
location. Yeah.
yeah, age location. So I and I have two cats. So maybe if you hear strange noise
I
here,
am.
it's my cat. Yeah, they're playing with bags, so maybe it's not appropriate for that kind of.
That's okay. It's
Oh my
ASMR.
god.
It's ASMR crinkling noises. It's perfect. It's great.
Yeah,
So,
it's Buster. She's. Oh yeah, my cats are Ghost and Buster. So Ghostbuster thing. Yeah, I know.
cute.
And Buster is playing with paper bags.
This is an important part. This is an important piece of your backstory that we need to understand before we can ask you questions about Epistory. But feel free to ask Sophie questions about her cats as well, everybody.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
you
let
can.
her, she will do the whole interview with cats.
All
Of
right.
course I will.
I'm being told in the chat that they're significantly quieter. So let's, yeah, there is a way to turn them up. Let's see if we can do that. We'll be in Discord here. And this is something that we're going to have to just get a feel for as we go. Because, again, this is the first time we've done one of these ASMR-ish interviews. So hopefully you guys didn't miss too much of what they said there. Uh, Thibaut and Sophie, maybe you can each take a turn just saying hi or something like that. And we'll see if the people at home can hear you better.
Hello.
All right, is it better?
How about that, guys? Let me know in chat how that's going. Also, while you guys
I
are...
see people on the chat that love kitties. They're just all cats kitties, yeah.
Cassie is excited about kitties. That's better. All right, thank you, Jay the Kid. By the way, on moderation duties on Twitch today, I am keeping the peace in the chat. I would like you to all give a hearty welcome to Versace and Jay the Kid, who are not normal Twitch moderators, but they have stepped up today to be present in the chat and help out with moderation. Because many of our usuals are unavailable today, unfortunately, although I see that Draconis is present in the chat, so that's wonderful. Thank you for turning up, Draconis, as best you can. And I think ASMR Dex will be here today on and off as well. Perhaps Musu a bit later, we'll see. All right. So I can hear your cats in the background, Sophie, just having fun with their bag. It's perfect.
But if it's disturbing, just tell me and I will just like.
It's just, no, it's wonderful. A round of ASMR applause. What would ASMR applause be like, Draconis? It would be like just 2 fingers, just a little tap 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 tap.
It's surely like a Dumbledore is doing it.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to attempt to keep this ASMR-ish here today, as I mentioned. We'll see how it goes, but if you guys start getting too loud, Thibaut or Sophie, I'm just going to be like, shh, 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 quiet. This is a library. I won't actually. I might. We'll see. All right. So I have a few questions just to get us rolling here. Just a couple of sort of basic things. So I'm curious if each of you can take a turn just describing Epistory as a game, just in your own words, just a quick summary, so that people who may not have seen the game before, who are watching the stream, have some idea of what to expect. So why don't we start with Sophie on this one?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Put you on the spot.
I'm punished or what? I have to start. Yeah, so Epistory, it's a typing game, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more, we see it more like an atmospheric adventure. So basically, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a background of it. So the game designer of it was very fan of the old Zelda games, and he wanted to do something like this, but with typing.
Cool.
And we were all very excited about it because it was quite niche and something unseen before. So we wanted to go into that experience and do something that players have never played before. So, and I think that we quite succeed in that part of the game.
I would say so. I would say that Epistory is quite unlike anything I've played before, in the best way possible. So, and Thibaut, is that? I mean, it's at a high level, it will agree with your perspective, but down in the trenches, slinging the code, do you have a slightly different perspective on what Epistory is, or is that about what you would say as well?
Yeah, I think she nailed it. It's a typing game, adventure, Zelda.
Okay.
It's like Zelda
Yeah.
having a child with a keyboard.
Yeah,
that's it.
that's
A
exactly.
bit gross, but that's exactly it.
Awesome. Okay. And I just wanted to thank both Otter Nerd and Musu for the sub and the resub. I really appreciate that, everybody, both of you. And I'm glad that Musu, that you can make it out for a little bit. Thank you very much. So we're filling up a little bit in here, and hopefully, if there's anybody here from the Fishing Cactus community as well, welcome to the stream, and it's wonderful to have you out, even if you're just lurking in the background there. And if any of you have burning questions that you want answered, please just hold on to them for just a couple of minutes here, and then you'll have your opportunity to spew them out there, and we'll just try and address them as best we can. But just don't forget them. Don't forget them while we're discussing here. So I had another question, and actually you sort of touched on this with your answer to the first one, but where did the idea, like the concept for Epistory, come from in the first place? Like, Sophie, you mentioned that the designer was a fan of Zelda, and so that was certainly an influence, but is there a story behind the conception of Epistory?
I think it's just that we wanted to do something slightly different, because the studio exists for 9 years now. So it was 8 years when we released Epistory, and the problem was that we had no money before, so we used to...
That is a problem, yeah.
Yeah, it was a problem, and we used to develop games for others and for 8 years, and then we decided that we had enough of that, and we wanted to do our own games. And we were just like, what kind of game we would like to create that's different, that just represent what we are. And so we decided to come with Epistory, and it was quite risky because we had no money, and we decided to do something that it's a niche game. So yeah, I talked with a lot of people from the press they were telling me, so you don't have any money, but when will you start to do something that sells?
Yeah, sure. And your first choice was to make a typing adventure game. This is
Yeah, of
not
first choice. Yeah, exactly.
probably
We
not the
were
first
just
thing
like,
that most studios would choose, but you took a risk and it worked, right? It
yeah,
paid
but
off for you.
it was a risk, and it went very well, actually, very well, and people loved it, and the press loved it, and we were quite very happy and surprised by the reception of the game.
Yeah, it's had very positive reception. And now this game came out in 2016, is that correct?
Uh,
Yes.
Or my mistake? Yes? Okay.
2016.
And I only discovered it recently thanks to sale on chrono.gg, which is a game sales platform. And I saw it there and I thought it would be perfect for my audience because it just has a very soothing aesthetic. And because I know a lot of people like the typing sounds for the ASMR typing. And so this is a question I had. I don't know if either of you know, but in the design of this game, was relaxation ever considered as an element, like part of the experience that you wanted to create? Do you know?
No, there
No.
wasn't.
Okay.
Actually, there was something to add to the story of the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It started as an arcade game,
Oh,
so a lot more, a lot
Intensive.
faster, a lot more intensive,
okay.
and it was roughly 150K of budget.
Okay.
And once the managers got the first feedbacks from the GDC and stuff like that, and the Gamescom,
Mm-hmm.
they showed it to other professionals of the game industry,
Yeah.
and they decided to double the budget and make it a story game.
So they thought it had the potential to
So
expand into a more story-driven experience.
Yeah,
yeah, in a word, they came back, and it was Christmas for us.
That's wonderful. That must have been a great moment for the studio.
a cursed Christmas because the structure of the game wasn't ready for that kind of expansion.
Yeah,
Sure.
true.
These are the challenges
The
of
designer went mad for a week. But,
the designer. Which, sorry?
the designer went mad for a
Oh,
week
you went
because it was like,
because he didn't know
oh
what to
yeah,
do.
I have to redo the dungeon structure. I have to redo the level design.
Of course. That's, I mean, at one part, amazing to have those resources all of a sudden, but also incredibly intimidating, I imagine, right?
Yeah, because there was like I think it was 15 or 18 dungeons, but a lot shorter.
Huh.
And instead to do a story, we had to have less dungeons but bigger.
Interesting. Very cool. These are the things that you would never see just from playing the game, that you'd never know, unless we have a chance to question developers just like this. So I have two more questions for you before I turn it over to everybody in chat. I know you guys are waiting there desperately with your questions. The one question, the first one of the two, is about how many people worked on the development of Epistory. What was the team size throughout the development?
It was 3 for the first half and then 4.
That is insane to me that 3 people or 4 people could produce something of this scope and quality. I'm no game developer, so I don't really have a point of reference, but it seems like a remarkably fully featured, fleshed out and polished video game for 4 people essentially working on it. So that's really
Yeah,
cool.
it was a real challenge because so 4 people of the studio worked on this, but we were at this time 20 people in the studio.
Okay.
And so the problem was always money, the problem is always money.
Of course.
So the other part of the studio, 16 other people had to work on a work for hire project,
Right.
while the 4 other were working on Epistory, so it was
Focused
a
on
big pressure,
Epistory.
but they were helping a lot by encouraging us, and it was great.
Very interesting. These are the trials and tribulations of an indie studio, a small indie studio, right? And I'm sure that the viewers will have other questions about, you know, challenges you may have encountered. But that reminds me actually that your studio, you've put out a couple of other games as well. At least I saw on Steam. Is that right?
Yeah, we released this year, in February, we released a game called Algobot, which is a kind of puzzle programming oriented game. So you have to control the robot and program sequences to make him go from the start point to the end point. And here recently in May we released another puzzle game that's called Shift Quantum.
Okay.
Where you have to actually shift. So the mechanic is called shift, but you have to inverse the positive negative space and to solve puzzle and to reach the exit.
And that's sort of a side, like almost like a platformer presentation from the side, and you're kind of switching
Exactly.
that sounds like a very unique mechanic. That's cool. Well, I think, and all these games are available on Steam, Epistory, Algobot, and
Sure.
yeah, okay. So if that's something you guys are curious about, you can head over to Steam and check all of those out. And then there's another project in the works right now. I understand it. We won't talk a lot about it now. We probably won't talk too much about it later, but let's just say it's directly related to Epistory. And it's something we might talk a little bit more about at the end of the stream. Can I say more than that right now? Do you want to say anything right now?
Sure, you should just like the next typing game.
The next typing game, okay.
Next typing game. We call that Typing 2.
Typing 2. That's a solid code name. So we'll touch on that again at the end of the stream, but I know there's not a lot that you guys can say about it. So right now, anyway, although I think September, it sounds like you'll be able to talk a bit more about it.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Of course, in September normally we will like reveal the first artwork for the game and tell you a little bit more about the plot of it.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I've got my questions out of the way. I do have other questions, things that I'm curious about, but I don't want to spoil viewer questions here. So I hope that some of you guys who have been watching, and I have been keeping an eye on chat. Hello, everybody. I know I didn't do my usual hellos at the beginning, but I wanted to jump right into things here so that our guests weren't left hanging. But it's great to see that everybody is out. Musiu, Versace, Ilk Multi, hello, Sparks. So I hope that you've got some questions that you've been thinking about while we've been chatting here. And I'm going to jump into the game. And I'm going to be playing. And hopefully my clicky keyboard sounds don't drown out our guests, Thibaut and Sophie. So I guess we'll just open up the floor here to questions that anybody may have. Your kitty cats are being vigorous in the background, I can hear.
The cat is going crazy.
That's so funny. They're like, Sophie's doing an interview, better make noise. That's great. So if you have questions, Museu's starting it off. All right, so I'm going to let Sophie and Thibaut address the questions, and maybe we can read out the question and then answer the question. And meanwhile, I'm going to be focusing on not looking terrible at this game. That's my plan. So go for it.
Okay, so the question, all of them, depending of what we... So the question, yeah, maybe I would just remind, so the paper art style of the game, it's based on origami art style, but also papercraft, depending of what kind of asset we needed.
I do adore the art style.
Me too. we wanted the player to feel like he was in a proper book.
And I think you succeeded. I'm just going to showcase. I'm going to just do a little trot around on the back of my Fox here so that you can all see exactly what Sophie's talking about.
Yeah, and one of the points for the art style was that since you are a muse for a writer, it was also a lot logical to have paper as the main ingredients for the world.
Ah, and the paper makes.
And
Sorry, continue.
yeah, and the guidelines for the artist was that the model should be doable by hand with paper.
Oh, so you wanted a very tactile look to it, like that they were real papercraft, real origami.
Yeah.
Very cool. It shows.
We actually have a real paper version of the fox in the studio.
That's cool.
So it has the size of a lab dog.
Oh, it's big.
Yeah. And yeah, but a kid just killed it a few months ago.
A child did?
Yeah, a child decided to mount it.
Oh no, and squashed it.
Because he saw it, he was, oh my god, the fox is so cute, I'm gonna mount it. And he squashed it.
The dangers of papercraft. So now's the challenge where I have to talk and type at the same time and have to fight off enemies. This is a unique challenge for me. So I'm hoping that the chat will just carry on there. Oh, I've got new enemies here too. I'm gonna die here.
Sorry. The question of GT the kid. That's something that we can't answer now. So if the future games will carry the paper art style, because here the art style is linked to the story and the plot of the game. And of course, we would like to do something else, another story with another character and something quite different. So it's a question that we can't answer now because we are still talking about it. We don't know if we should keep it, if we could do something else, trying to challenge ourselves with something new. So we'll see.
Yeah, and as of the game on PlayStation or other platforms, it's no.
Yeah, complicated with keyboard.
The keyboard is too important, and the install base of keyboards and console isn't worth it.
I will say.
In a word that would ruin it.
It would not be the same, that's for sure. As I'm desperately attempting to use the keyboard to my best advantage here. Just so happens that I started at a very intense moment here. How's the clicking noises there? Is it too annoying?
It's okay.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, that was a close one there. We got it. Oh, more coming. So I have a question, which I'm going to try and articulate as I attempt to... Or maybe I won't. Maybe I don't want to die.
Choosing a three-tailed fox, a reason.
It's going to keep happening.
Yes and no. So we choose a fox because we needed... what is it called? Une monture. Thibaut, comment tu dis monture?
We needed a mount to have the character moving fast.
Because the character was very slow, we needed a mount. And the 3D artist, wonderful 3D artist, proposed a fox because he's a fan of Naruto, and he wanted to have more tails, but it was very, very difficult to animate. So this is if you want the true, I'm just always for the true. So
of course.
So we decided to limit it to three tails.
I think 3 tails looks nice, as opposed to like 9 tails like the Pokemon.
So it's not QB, but decent.
I would have more. more to ask you here as I go, but I just want to make sure I can get past this part. This is a challenge. This is why this is experimental. Oh, I missed the little guys. So this stream is actually just going to be me continually dying in this conflict and you guys waiting for chat to ask you questions. But in between attempts here, while I keep getting wrecked, I do have a question. The game has an adaptive difficulty setting, and this seems like a very appropriate time to ask about that. How does that work exactly?
For
You
each,
have to die to find out.
I've died 3 times now, so we're getting there. Thibaut
for
gets to
each
see it in
action
action.
that you do, for each action that you do, you get points,
Mm-hmm.
either positive or negative. And depending on the points, the enemies will go faster or slower.
Ah, I see. So it's the speed of the enemies that's
And the
adjusted.
spawn rate.
I see.
And the adaptive difficulty is the best way to have the easiest or the hardest levels. Because we also have a fixed difficulty in the options.
Yes,
But
I did
then
notice
they don't
that.
go as low or as high. So for example, if you do a combat, so a fixed combat like you are doing now,
Mm-hmm.
if you do it without dying once, you get more points than if you die in the middle.
I see.
It's also linked to your word per minute. So if you do, if you slow down your typing, the reaction will be very fast. So it's like a dual system of fast reaction and low reaction. So you have the slow reaction is winning combats, killing enemies, stuff like that. And the fast reaction is a drop or an increase in word per minute.
Oh, what word did I start out? Flee, path, age, sin, estimate. I'm being... Oh no, I missed him. I did not plan this out very well. I do like this little interlude that happens beforehand, or in between lives though, where it reminds me a little bit of Bastion. Have you guys played Bastion?
Yeah, it's one of the inspiration for the...
I wondered about that, because there's this narrator, this constant narrator that's guiding you through the story, and then when you die, as I've demonstrated now several times, it's like, well, hold on a moment, that's not actually how it went, you know, let's try that again, right? You guys are all just watching
Maybe you should go to the dungeon.
Where does one go? Is there somewhere for me to go that's not this combat here?
Yes.
Oh, I guess there's a map option.
There's the next dungeon. It's south.
It's south. Okay.
South.
All right. Well, let's take a little cruise that way. Maybe it'll be a little bit more chill. Either that, or I could turn the difficulty all the way down here. I swear I'm not normally this bad.
There are a few questions. Thibaut, when do you decide that you would like to make games?
I don't know, like 15, 20 years ago? Maybe not 20, more like 15.
Cool, that's a long time.
Let's take a look. There's a map here.
Right, since you say that the trees of Fall was influenced by Naruto, was there any other thing in the game that were largely influenced
So maybe
by
this
stuff
one?
like that? Other thing than Naruto, let me think.
For the art, I think it's the only one.
No, it's the only one. We created all the rest and we suffered from it. It was very hard work. But no, Naruto was I think the biggest influence for character and art. The question here is this game localizing other languages as well? Yes, the game is localizing 9 languages, if I'm right now. More than 9?
11, 12?
11, 12? Yeah, because we keep adding other languages that people are translating people from the community. And but officials, I think it's 9 official ones, no? 11 in mods. Not sure.
Do you count American English and British English separately?
Oh yeah, that's true. But that's true. But that's very important when you have to spell words.
Right.
Because, for example, for color, some spell it C-O-L-O-R, and the other one C-O-L-O-U-R.
I checked on Steam, it's 11.
Oh, I was doing it more faster. Okay, 11, 12 languages.
If you count, 12 if you count English, 2 English.
Right. And did you simply import a dictionary for all the words, or were they all chosen manually? Both of them. I mean, they have like champ lexical, a lexical field. They are, for example, when you are in dungeon, every dungeon has a theme, and so the words of combat are mostly related to that theme. But when you are in an arena, like this random arena, it's just random words.
To reformulate that, it's
yeah, because I'm not good at it.
It's no, it's because it's slightly wrong.
Slightly wrong.
Dungeon... no, because
each dungeon has a theme, isn't it?
Yes, but it's the same dictionaries from the overworld. It's just that there's I think it's 10% chance to have a word that will appear nowhere except in that dungeon.
And did I imagine that the words are related to the theme? Do you think that I imagined that because I knew the theme in the story?
Maybe. Because some words will be different than the other. And sometimes I've seen, I think, one YouTuber realizing that one word was had never appeared beforehand. So, but it's a low chance. It's only on enemies also. And lexical fields are for the puzzles and everything related to fire, everything related to wind, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
That seems like...
I've been half listening to what you've been discussing here because I was busy fighting for my life, and I succeeded finally, and I believe I've unlocked the next dungeon now. But I did want to say that I really appreciate just having had this little combat here, how different enemies have different, as you say, like lengths and types of words associated with them, and also that the environmental challenges do as well. It keeps it very thematic. I think it's a very clever design element, I guess. A very clever approach to it.
Another question, has the game been or will it be translated into Korean? It's not in our plan, but you can, if you want to translate it, it's very easy. We have just like mod dictionary, so you can... What?
No, because it will be more fonts. You don't have the fonts.
Yeah, we don't have the font. Okay, so it's not possible for Korean, but any other Latin language will do.
I think I've got upgrade points to spend here. Instinct could be useful now because the path to the nearest point will be shown when pressing spacebar. Let's do it. That'll help us move things along here. Excellent. I have a question about localization, since there seem to be a couple of questions about that here. Roughly how much work is it to localize for a different language? Like, is it fairly, like, I guess all the story elements and voiceover, that all has to be, or is the voiceover not localized?
Yeah, the voiceover is not localized.
I see.
It's only the words that you have to type in the text on.
Right.
and menu, of course. And everybody thinks that the German version will be harder than any other version. But not really, in fact, because we have to keep, how can I explain that? Depending of where you are and the enemy you're fighting, we always keep the same number of letters for to compose the words. So no matter what language you play, it should be quite the same. Not always the same, but quite the same.
Yeah,
The same
that
number of
allows.
One of the
letters, I mean.
rules, one of the rules for the translators was that all the letters used must be a one key press. So if you have a strange accent
I
that's
see.
not used often, it has to be integrated in the classical keyboard.
Right, that makes sense
As one
because
key.
otherwise you're changing the difficulty when you change the language, right?
Yeah.
And you wanted to keep those more or less independent. Goodbye, Monsieur.
And the hard part of the localization is that instead of just translating sentences, you have to find new words. You can just say, "Oh, they type fire at that point." You have to find a word in your language that has the same length and that is related to fire.
Right.
Not just translate fire.
Exactly. So here's the question: did this undertaking this game, does this grow your vocabulary? Either of you? Did you learn new words?
In English, yes.
In English, yes.
Because we develop in English, so.
I see.
And maybe quite, maybe chemicals related. Maybe chemicals is not the right word in English, for sure, but chemistry related words.
Certainly.
Yeah, and all the stones. Some people accuse us of the stone not being real words. Yeah, it's for playing golf course with.
Yeah,
I
of
am
course.
used to that kind of language, and I can assure you that they are real stones.
And people thought that we invented words.
No, they just need to learn their minerals.
Just like, no,
I recognize some of the mineral names, but not all of them, that's for sure. Okay, we're going this way. This is a very handy feature, this little path that guides me to my next goal. It's handy when I don't have the luxury of spending the time to poke around and I want to keep the stream moving, so...
It's not always working as intended.
No, it has some issues sometimes.
Yeah, because it will point you to the chests first. So if you miss the chest, instead of going to the dungeon, it will go to the chest, the nearest one.
Oh, well, that's okay. It looks like this time it led us to a dungeon, and or at least the next area of the map that might unlock. And the chests are useful as well, so it's functional either way.
It's leading you to an area of the map that is not useful for your next progression. You can unlock it, but you cannot use it.
I see.
Because you're missing the power.
Looks like we have a question about your next project. Oh, we have a couple of questions coming in here now. I know you can't talk a lot about your next project, but I will leave it up to you to decide what you can and can't say.
Next project, I teased a bit on them. I already teased it on our Discord. I will just say system-driven gameplay.
System-driven gameplay. That's a very programmer way to describe it, I think. Maybe designer way to describe it, but just vague enough that it's not going to get you in trouble.
Maybe something that we can say is just like during the Christmas season, last Christmas season, we created a survey for the people from the community, from the players of Epistory to fill, and asking them what they liked in the game and what they would like in the new one. And so what we did, it's just like we follow their lead. we will try to do like a custom-made game with all the community and create something that they would like to play. And of course, we won't be able to do all requirements, but we will try to take a lot of them and to respect the DNA of the first game.
There must be a difficult balancing act between games, how to decide, you know, how closely you want to, like you say, respect or evoke the first game versus pushing forward new mechanics and a new experience. You know, that balance is probably difficult to achieve sometimes, or to decide where that should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
and the balance point is changing. Every 4 weeks we have new discussions about what to keep, what to improve, and what to drop and stuff like that.
But I think that we will just we all agreed that we should keep it poetic.
That's a good,
And
a sort of aesthetic descriptor, I guess, for what this is like. It is very storybook. It is very poetic. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now that I hear you say that. I see a question in the chat there. It looks like Jay the Kid asked, did you guys have any significant game-breaking problems to overcome during development?
I can't remember a big
no,
one.
everything was perfect.
There was no issues whatsoever.
I'm so good, it's no problem.
Yeah.
No, I can't remember any very hard stuff, like dropped features that would not work technically.
That's impressive, I think. Again, I'm not a game developer, but it seems like there are often some significant technical challenge encountered during game development, so that's cool that...
I think that what's very maybe challenging for you is that it was the first time that you were using Unity.
Yeah, true. It was a challenge at the start.
So you had to learn it. So you learned it during the development of the game.
Yep.
Maybe that was quite a challenge to work on.
And as for the hardest piece of technical stuff, I would say the constructing world that you unlock part of it and it all unfolds. That was quite hard to manage. Yeah, and the typing system that is a lot more complicated than it looks.
I believe it.
And it's because it's complicated that it looks simple.
Exactly. The best. That means you've done a good job of it. You've made it look simple. But even when in reality, it's I'm sure there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
But
and I just recalled. So you said don't spoil the story, but I will spoil a mechanic.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
In one of the dungeons, we have it's a mine, and it's all dark. So you are in the dark, and if an enemy is in the dark, the word isn't displayed. And you have to light a crystal to have the word appear.
I see.
And that was a challenge because it was one of the last features that was implemented in the game. So none of the systems for the typing system was up for it.
The tangled
I had to hack
cannot
the
stop
code
her now.
in several ways to make it work.
Huh.
I remember that you were even happy with small things that you achieved. Like, do you remember when you discover how to make that when the fox is turning left, the head is likely watching on the left?
Yes, that was awesome because...
Yeah, and you were very happy, like, look what I did, look what...
So proud of that.
Because I spent like an afternoon with the 3D artist to make it's basically jiggly bones, so to have the ponytail of the character move with the fox.
Ah, okay.
And that would be physics animated.
Right. I'm looking at it right now.
To implement. We try to. No, it doesn't move right now.
Oh, it was
Not a
animated
lot.
independently.
Yeah, and the thing is that we tried to implement that. It wasn't very conclusive. And one of the manager was a bit salty about it because it was like, oh, you wasted an afternoon doing useless stuff. And a few weeks later, I used the knowledge gained from that stuff to make the fox head move a bit before the rest of the body. So if you watch closely, you can see that the head moves beforehand.
As I change direction.
Yeah, and it's a subtle.
It's very subtle.
Effect to. It's almost like the touch feeling of a mechanical keyboard. To have the. You don't even perceive it's there, but you have the feedback.
And it improves your perception, your experience of it, even if you don't know exactly how. If you can't quite put your finger on it, although you can literally put your finger on a mechanical keyboard. But
so that's the level of polish that we managed to have again.
Okay. All right, so I've got there we go, unlocking the next area here. These are some very interesting anecdotes about game development, and I had a question that came up a moment ago.
She looked out across the horizon.
But we'll let the game do its thing here.
The faintest of whispers rise to an almighty roar as the angry sea raced across the land.
When I see it, it's I always see the faults in the animation of the unfolding world.
I'm sure
it's the curse.
And then
it's the curse of development. You only see the faults, the problems with it. That no player will ever see, you know. It's
Of course, and it's the same in any kind of when you're putting anything out there, whether it's a game or a video. As a video creator, I notice all kinds of little things that bother me in my videos while I'm editing them. You know, little sounds or things I didn't do quite the way I wanted, but that no one else will ever notice. And I imagine it's a million times worse as a game developer when there's so many moving parts. You know.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure it's worse, but I can see it. It's always.
Is there anything that, as you're watching it, you know, as I play it, is there anything that you really wish that you had done differently, or that you could, you know, could go back and change at a fundamental level?
Well, the unfolding animation, it's that I just watched on the stream. It's done by zone. So you just say, in this area you have to unfold, and then this area, and then this area.
Right.
It's always squares or circles. And you can see it. I can see the pattern. I know that because I know how it works. I can see that, oh, there's a square, there's a circle.
Of course.
Sometimes there's a few tiles that were not deployed at the right time because they were just outside the circle. And basically the whole zone, once I mean, the designer gives a few zones to do first, and then the second, and then the third, and so on.
Where were these horrors coming from?
The designer defined
the answer she
area are done.
Change everything.
We do the rest, the tile in random order.
I see.
So you can sometimes see that there's a circle, and when it's done, there's the rest of it. But it's, you know, it should have been, the circle should have been a bit larger or a bit smaller. And you can see one tile that is revealing a bit too late and stuff like that.
And as you say, these are things that I never, certainly have not noticed in my, you know, time that I've spent with the game, and 99% of people probably never would. But as a creator, it makes perfect sense that you see the patterns and you know these things, and they bother you. They just eat away at you a little bit by little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So you had a question.
I did, and I'm trying to recall what it was now. It's left my mind. But I did have another question, and it was about your voiceover, your voice actor who does the narration. She's very good.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love the way she reads the passages.
It was very hard to find her.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you spend a long time trying to find just the right voice?
Yeah, a lot of. No, exactly what happened is that uh, I was in charge of it. I was in
Okay.
charge of finding people and submitting them to the team and see what they if they like it or not.
Hmm.
And so I found her. I'm the team listened to her, and we all agreed that she was perfect. So we tried to have her, but the agency I
Water
don't know
was
why they sent
everywhere.
us a
It
lot of
changed the
other
landscape.
they proposed a lot of other people, and we were just like, no, we want Rachel, she's perfect for it. They were just like, yeah, maybe, but listen to the other because they're quite good too. They were just like, no, they sound like bad commercial, or I don't know, porn, bad porn. But exactly, but true, it's just that I'm not joking, it was horrible.
True story.
Yeah, true story. It was just like that. Yeah, no, horrible. And so they were, okay, so you want Rachel, right? Yes, I want Rachel. Just give us Rachel. And so we started to work with her. And what's very funny is that her real voice, it's not close to what you can hear. That she can
Hmm.
change it. She's very, very talented.
Certainly, I.
And yeah, and when we had to play voice director with the writer of the
Changed
game, we were
everything.
just like, yeah, maybe you should just sound a little bit like more the Lord of the Ring kind of style. And she was like, okay, I can do that, and she tried. It's cool.
Very cool.
She was so talented that we also in Shift Quantum, the last release game, we also worked with her because she's so cool.
Yeah, I think she does a fantastic job, and as you say, that's impressive that she's a sort of a vocal chameleon. That what we're hearing here is not really what she sounds like normally. Then again, what you're hearing here is not really what I sound like that normally either. But no, she does a fantastic job. That's something that we noticed right away when I was streaming this, and that other people in the chat commented on.
The hall denied her entry.
There you go. Yeah, fantastic job. And it's one of those things, voice acting is one of those things where when it's really bad, you certainly notice it. When it's, when it's good, you don't notice it so much. So it's there and it adds to the experience, but you don't necessarily pick it out as a very special, unique part of the game. But I think this Rachel, is that her name?
Yes,
She's
Rachel Messer.
she's so good that it stood out to me, beyond just being good voice acting. It's like exceptional. It really, really adds to it.
Yeah, I completely
Yeah,
agree,
it's the
and a
same
lot.
for.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's the same for music.
She
In a
Yeah.
will
film,
not be
in a
denied
movie,
entry.
or in a game, if the music is just good,
These halls
you don't
of wisdom
just hear
still
it.
stood firm.
Absolutely agreed. I completely agree with that. And there are music is another thing that I picked out a few times while I was playing this game and talking about it. I think it has a lovely soundtrack. And is your, I suppose you don't have an in-house composer. If only 4 people worked on this game, you probably had to find somebody to do the music. Is that right?
hmm
Yes, that's right.
And was that a similar process? Do you look for demos and sort of shop around a bit, or how does that work?
Yep, exactly
Like,
the same.
he was no, it was he was recommended by a 3D artist.
Oh yeah, but
He was a
he
friend of a
was
3D artist.
yeah, but he was he.
Though they had been racked by the wave's fury.
What's the word for it? I'm losing my words in English.
You're doing very well so far.
Yeah,
That's
that's he has to propose like all the other. It was not, hey, you're the friends of Ryan, so we're gonna pick you.
right.
It's just, no, do exactly like the other. Just propose something, and if you're good, we will keep you.
Right. So there
And
was
he was good. He was the best actually. So we kept him.
It's nice when that works out.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like a lot of Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying, yeah, it's indie game, so the music and voiceover doesn't need to be good because they don't have money for it. But I completely disagree. We have to, when you want to provide some quality work, you have to do what you can to do it. They were not just like they didn't cost a lot more than the other. They were actually quite cheaper, and but it's because they wanted to be on the
looming walls
project,
and rising tide overwhelmed
so
her.
they help a lot with the quotes. And
That's cool that they were
yeah,
so passionate about
they
it.
were good. They were good, but good doesn't mean that they're expensive. They're just good.
It sounds to me like a lot of the challenge is just taking the time to find the right
Yeah,
people for
exactly.
your
It's
project.
just about time and right direction.
Very cool. And it's not necessarily always a problem that can be solved just by throwing money at the issue. There's a couple of questions in chat there. I noticed someone's asking, what is ASMR? Oh, Cassie already answered that. Thank you very much for getting that, Cassie. Yeah, ASMR it's a relaxing sensation that some people experience, essentially, but people make videos and streams and interviews, although most people don't make interviews, but that are designed to help people wind down, deal with anxiety, help them sleep, those kinds of things. That's the essence of ASMR. I noticed that Cassie asked there, besides the fox turning its head, is there any aspect of the game that you are most proud of?
From a technical standpoint, I'm not sure that. I mean, overall, I'm proud of it, but not. I don't have a specific feature in mind. But I think the level of polish that we achieved on all levels of technical art and design, I think it's quite good.
I agree.
And,
I would add that last week a streamer went to the end of the game and he cried. So I think that it was quite an achievement.
Yeah, that it's so emotionally impactful.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Crying people, that was our aim from the beginning.
Just hopefully crying about the right things. Not crying out of frustration.
ASM or cry something.
I'm sure it's been done. I'm sure somebody has sobbed into a camera or into a microphone. It's a little bit dark, but
So there's another question. What is it like to see someone speedrun your game for the first time? Does it influence future game design in any way? It was nice to see people doing speedrun of the game, and we didn't think that it was possible, but a lot of person did it, and I think that the faster one is 47 minutes.
wow.
If I'm right.
Yeah,
I'm right. 47.
It's the current world record, and it's
Peaches, I think.
I can't remember which one is it, but I know that it's only 4 dungeons out of 8. It's the critical part.
They drop it. They cut a part of the game to do it, and I don't think it really influences for future game design, but it was just nice to have people speedrunning it. And but Epistory is more like about exploration, atmospheric, peaceful things, and sometimes hard, like fight and rage quit all combined.
Yeah, I did have to bump down the difficulty a couple settings there earlier, just to facilitate the stream at the same time as the chat
I
here.
can't do this. I just can't.
Yeah, I think in all other games, genres, it could influence the design, but for an RPG like that, I don't think it's. We won't change the design to help or to cater to the speedrunners.
Were there unique things that the speedrunners figured out that you hadn't anticipated?
bugs.
Yeah, sure. Well, whatever you want to call them.
Water
There's
changed her
there's
path.
one bug where the character can be teleported. It's a bad bug, so it's a bug that the speedrunners have to be aware of, because it was possible to be teleported out of bounds because they were rushing on the unfolding paper, and the nav mesh just freaks out and teleports the character.
That's
It's one spot in the whole game, you know.
sure not something you'd really thought of, but that is very important when you're speedrunning like that, I imagine.
Yeah, and there's also one bug with the combat, because they were forced to they were doing intentional death to teleport back to a previous
Sure.
location.
Mm-hmm.
And in the game, when you lose a combat, you lose the points that you gained.
Right.
And there was one variable not initialized correctly, and since they never died throughout the game, and they did all the combat next to another, the death, the intentional death, could put their points back to the beginning of the game.
Of course, yeah.
So they couldn't unlock the rest, and it's a late bug, so it's like at 80% of the run, you could run into something that locks out,
In ways
like
that
locks you out
frightened
of the progression.
So it's a high risk kind of situation. The risk ramps up as you go.
It's been fixed since, but
All right. I'm not sure if I hit all the things I need to hit here or not. I had a question.
How does it work?
Yeah, please solve this puzzle for me. I'm not sure if this was timing based and I messed it up, but
You have to try. No, it's not timing based. You have to light up the blue one on the bottom of it, and then all the others avoiding the pink ones.
I see. Avoiding pink ones. I thought they were there to help me get
Yeah,
through.
because pink ones are resetting.
I see. That makes
puzzle.
so much more sense. All right. Well, let's try this again.
you
But
use
well,
the bottom one in the middle, and then go all the way up, and then do the way down again.
so start over here.
And some people hated us because of that puzzle.
This
don't
particular one.
worry.
So if
I can say that kind of puzzle won't be in the next typing game. We all agreed about that.
All the movements puzzle were banned for the second one.
Oh,
So,
really?
No, don't go on the pink. Just go back. Go back. On the blue
I'm standing on a blue right now.
one. Okay.
So
So
do
now
not
you
touch
go
any pink.
Just
Yeah, press I.
left. I.
I see. And now I can hit the other blues without. Understood.
Yeah, press I key. Yeah.
I think I understand.
Alright.
And now I can get these. Am I doing this right?
No. Yes. Then. Yeah. J.
This is difficult because you're seeing this.
Okay.
With
Stop. Yeah. E.
with a lag on it. This is not going to work
then
because I'm
F.
hearing your
Oh,
advice
no.
significantly after the
No,
fact.
no.
So
You had to stop on the blue. The last activated.
okay, I see what you're saying. Yes, no, we can do it. I've got this. I've never been coached directly by a developer before how to solve a puzzle. I must say this is a first time experience. I see that turns them off. Okay, all right. I see where we're at here. So I did have a question though. Do either of you, Thibaut or Sophie, have you had any experience with ASMR prior to this? Is this something that you knew about, or is this something you stumbled across, or is this entirely new to you?
No, never. And I said to Thibaut that reminds me a movie, The Brave One with Jodie Foster. I don't know if you.
I've never seen it, no, but
I think it's really good, and she's doing like she works for a radio station, and she does like she captures sounds from the street, and she speaks. She tells story, but in very kind of deep and comfortable and chill voice.
Huh.
Very interesting, and I think that was ASMR, and I didn't know about it, but I really enjoyed it. I fell in love with that.
Huh.
That I don't know that idea of.
That's cool though, because many people have their examples of ASMR-like experiences before they've learned of the term or learned about this sort of YouTube community or whatever. Lots of people talk about like Bob Ross and the Joy of Painting. I don't know if that's something either of you are familiar with.
That's for me.
Okay, it was very.
Didn't see it.
It was very popular on public television in the United States, sort of in the 90s. But he would just paint very quietly, you know, paint scenes, and you'd hear his brushing against the canvas, and you would hear he had a very soft tone and very relaxing delivery. So for many people, I think that was one of their first exposures to what might be called ASMR before it had a name. And what about you, Thibaut?
I knew the concepts. But I had only seen, you know, the strange YouTube videos.
And there are lots of strange YouTube videos.
People rubbing teddy bears.
Or whatever. There are many strange YouTube videos. And, you know, there's something for everybody, I suppose. But ASMR as a genre has grown so much in the last 6 to 7 years, from being virtually unknown to being this thing where so many people are making ASMR channels now. But that's very cool that you were both open-minded enough to come and hang out with me here in a relatively chill stream, trying to keep the volume down, trying to keep it relaxing. I know it must be strange for both of you.
It's very hard for me.
Yes. Yes, I hear that you are naturally gregarious, we'll say.
Oh my god, the cricket, it's not on the roof anymore.
Uh-oh, where is it?
Oh my god, where is the cricket?
You guys, yeah, it's right behind you.
No, I checked. That was the first thing that I did, just touching my hair.
It probably fell on the ground, and one of your cats ate it, probably.
Probably.
Oh, I already messed this up.
What I was about to say, that reminds me when, you know, when someone is calling you on the phone, and the people has to whisper because the people doesn't want people to hear, and you're whispering back.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous because you don't need to be quiet, but you're whispering back in the phone.
ASMR can be a little bit like that, for sure. Definitely. Okay, I've got to think about this for a moment here. I've got 2 more blue ones. I have a question.
So there was a question.
A question
in the chat.
Sure.
About the Elder Scrolls.
Ah, okay.
I'm a huge fan since Morrowind. So I even have the collector's edition of Skyrim.
Nice.
So I have
the Alduin.
The dragon.
Yeah. That one's pretty cool. I do not have the dragon in my abode because when Skyrim came out, I was living with my brother, and my brother and we split the collector's edition, and he ended up taking the dragon, the Alduin statue, so I don't have it. But it's pretty darn cool. It's pretty cool. He's treated it right. He has a display case, literally a glass display case, and Alduin is in it. So he treats it with respect.
I have a few collector's edition. I have Guild Wars 2. So I don't know if you know it. It's the.
I play Guild Wars 2.
Char.
Yeah.
It's the char with the flaming sword.
Very cool.
I have the remake of Homeworld. I have the mothership. That's very cool. I also have the Elder Scrolls Online collector's edition. So it's
the more she learned, the less she knew.
It's the god Baal. No, it's not Baal. It's I can't remember the name. It's the god of malice and.
Not Molag Bal.
Molag Bal, yes.
Ah, okay.
Trapped, frightened.
And it's very cool because he has he has the mace in one hand that I have in my game
of course, the mace of Molag Bal. Yeah.
And is squeezing human in the other. It's great stuff.
she ran. I guess I'm running. Sorry, things just got intense, but I think I went the wrong way. Well, maybe not. Let's see where we end up. Because I can't defeat these things yet.
I don't know who I am anymore.
Oh gosh, this is gonna be death, probably. Oh, I can't go through there. Rats. This is so much more challenging than I anticipated when I have to
Go, I.
solve it. It's I already.
No.
No,
It happened. It happened.
With the delay, we cannot help him.
Yes, exactly. Your help is only good when I have time to sit and think about it. Bye bye, Sparks. Thank you for coming out. I hope you enjoyed what we were doing here. So, maybe this is a good opportunity to put out a call again to chat. Just if anybody has any. I have a few final questions that I was hoping to ask that I've got sort of in my my very professional notepad document here. But if anybody else has anything that they would like to ask of Thibaut and Sophie, now is the time to do it, because we'll probably look at wrapping up in maybe 15 minutes or something like that. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think we've got some good questions here, and we've had some very good, very interesting trivia. And I've been stumbling my way through trying to pay attention to what's being said while also playing the game and hopefully not making a total ass of myself. But if anybody has any further burning questions to ask, now would be the time to do so.
Questions.
It's because I can burn stuff in the game. Burning questions. Although now we're in the ice area, so...
Yeah, and icing question doesn't have the same ring to it.
No, an icing question really doesn't. You're right.
Mountains rose around her, looming, mocking, taunting.
Okay, I think I got away. I missed a door back there that an enemy came out of. Maybe I could have gone in there and found something, but... Now, I'm quite the completionist when it comes to my games, so... Oh, we've got a question in chat here. Hunt Mitklampf says, I didn't listen at the time. Did they already tell what game brought them into the scene? Okay, so what was the first game that sparked your passion? Very good question. Why don't we start with Thibaut? What really got you into game development? What made you want to get into game development?
Not a game in particular. I mean, I started...
A light shone ahead.
my
A
first
light of
game
power.
memory was Mega Man on the NES.
Nice.
And ever since I've played a ton of games, so it wasn't one game that sparked the coding, but it's just an overall. I love to play games, so I want to make it my
As it cast her
profession.
shadow, it soothed her.
And since I have no
Condescended like
artistic
mist.
talent, I decided to do a programming.
That's not true. I've seen what you can do.
I can do programmer's art.
That's very funny, full of boxes. And
And the magenta.
cycles,
Magenta
magenta colors. Yeah.
And what about you, Sophie? Did you have something that brought you to the industry?
Yeah, it's more about how I started to play games, and it was not me first, but it was just like my dad always been a nerd, and so we always had a computer at home, where most of people here in Belgium, they didn't have a computer at home. It was not the case for all people. I didn't know that, and I didn't understand what we had a
Learn to
computer
control the rising swell.
in the school for students to use it. I was just like, why don't you use the computer at your home? But it's because, yeah, but it's because apparently I was the only one in my class to have one, and it was funny because my parents were playing every Friday night.
river
They
need
were
not run so
inviting
fast.
people from the neighborhood to come and play
She
computer
may not
games.
be carried with her.
And so all the neighbors came to my house with beers, and they were playing. It was very, very, very nice. And the game was, I don't remember the name of it, but it was Olympics game when you had to to run with a spear and just like jump with a spear.
Okay.
I don't know. It was
I,
just
I,
like
I don't think I've
Olympics.
ever played it either, but
Yeah, it's Olympic Games, and you just had to press 3 buttons on the keyboard, but people were completely crazy about it, and that's the first, the first time I remember of playing video games. So it was very cool. I was just like, that's exactly what I want to do with my friends when I give grown-up people beer and computer games.
and here you are.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's your life now, beer and computer games. That's literally what I do here on Twitch.
But exactly, no, but not kidding, but yes, that's exactly it. And after that, my dad had a lot of computer, and we had a Commodore 64, and I remember we had Popeye the game on it, and a Mario game, and when Donkey Kong was the bad guy.
You had a Mario game on your Commodore 64. I didn't realize that there were Mario games for C64. Very interesting.
Yeah, I had one.
It's the first one where you have to. When Mario was called Jumpman.
Right, and Donkey Kong's up at the top of the tower, right? Isn't that just called Donkey Kong? I think that was.
Barrels.
Yeah.
He was throwing barrels.
Yeah.
It was very funny. I used to play it with my brother, and then, but when I was a kid, I was more like a watcher. But I was watching my brother playing and pretending to help. So, for example, when he was playing like
she dealt with the barriers
Age of Empire, for example.
Age of Empires is so good.
Yeah, and when you could hear, but I was very young, and but we had a phone just next to the computer, and when you could either doo-doo, I was just like taking the phone and sir, you've been attacked. Just like, do something, sir.
That's really
and my brother was just like, okay, I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna kill everyone, don't worry.
That's hilarious. That's cute.
Yeah, that's very, very, very funny.
New challenges approach.
Oh, I think we're about to have an intense combat here, so this is gonna be. I'll be going quiet for a moment here.
I was holding my breath, watching you. Let's go.
Claws bared and eyes
Here it's
hungry.
more complicated. You have to use a different kind of magic and switching.
Yeah, I see that.
Fire to ice.
Yeah. It's okay, they're coming in pretty slow right now, but I imagine it'll change.
So there's a question. What is your favorite kind of cake?
Carrot cake.
Oh,
For
interesting.
me, I will say I will blow your mind. It's rice cake.
Cheesecake. Oh,
No,
rice
cake.
Rice cake. That's not. Does that count as a cake? Like you're talking about the crunchy rice cakes.
Specialty.
It's very good.
It's basically cooked rice.
Oh.
With a vanilla.
But it's not a cake. It's a pie. We call that a pie.
A rice pie.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
right.
pie. It's not really a cake.
Rice pie, yeah.
But
it's
I love
basically
cheesecakes.
It's rice in vanilla. Vanilla
Sounds pretty tasty.
Very good.
paste.
Here
She would not be
in North America, or at least in Canada, rice cake would typically refer to like kind of a crunchy rice snack. So
Oh no, it's not.
not that at all.
like
That's
that.
where my mind went when you said
Creamy.
rice cake.
Very creamy. Rice cake.
It's kind of like a rice. Is it like a rice pudding kind of situation? Because I've had rice pudding before.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's rice pudding, but in a pie. And
Okay.
It's delicious.
All right, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
All right, any last questions here? I'm just looking at chat right now. Jay the Kid asked, "What is the hardest party of your career?" I think he meant part. Yes, he meant hardest part. But I'm gonna
Okay,
ask
that's
you
good.
both:
Yeah.
hardest
But
part and hardest party.
Hardest part and hardest part. The hardest part for me, it's when I'm putting my community manager hat, and then people are start to insult us, when they are getting rude
Mm-hmm.
about our game and about the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And as a community manager, I can't just yell at them, and I have to just stay calm and try to put it in.
You have to be professional.
Yeah, exactly, professional, but it's hard sometimes.
Sometimes your
Very hard.
passion takes over, and I completely understand, because even though it's on a much smaller scale, I am my own community manager in a way. I have a community of people that I, interact with on a daily basis, and sometimes it's very difficult to stay civil when you feel like you're personally under attack.
Yeah, but I think I'm doing okay for the moment. I've never insulted anyone, or
It's a skill set that you've honed over much
Yeah.
practice.
But I try to remember of insulting people. No, I think that only the game designer insulted a journalist, but okay.
That was a little small PR disaster.
But it was funny, very funny. But it was funny because our game designer, David, he insults you, but you don't know if you have to take it bad or not.
So maybe
You're not sure until the end of it. You're sure of did it just insult me or not? I'm not sure.
that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, so it's just okay. And the best party of my career.
Surely you've been to some good trade shows or cons or something like that where you've got to party hard.
Yeah, I think it's the last. We had a party during the last show that we did. It was at in London. The show was EGX Rest.
Okay.
And we had a very nice party there with a lot of indie developers. It was nice, it was all in, so we drank maybe too much. That was cool. We met a lot of nice people from the video game industry there. Quite cool, always cool to do it. But I think that for example, here I'm gonna go to Gamescom, we'll have a party, and I
yes.
think that one will be over the last one.
Every party is the best party.
Yeah, every party is the best party for me. And I'm always just ends every party being completely drunk and showing picture of my cats to every people around. So
That's
this
perfect.
is what I do.
Perfect. I wish we had a chance to link your cats in chat here. I think I saw somebody say they tried or something, but
I tried
Oh.
to do it with the Fishing Cactus account,
If
but I couldn't link.
yeah, it'll
think-
block your links. But if you link it to me in Discord, in our Discord chat, I can
Sure.
post it into the chat, and I think the link should stay. So why don't we do that? Because I want to see these cats as well. I know we have several viewers here who are heavily invested in cats. So Draconis, no, I was not talking about you. Not at all. You are all wonderful. Everybody who comes out to these streams is fantastic. No, mostly YouTube commenters is who I was talking about. You get some pretty questionable YouTube comments sometimes, yeah. It's the internet. It comes with the territory, but sometimes it feels like a bit of a personal attack, so. Yeah, Dex already covered that there. Okay, let's see. I've got a link here, I think. Time to look at some cats. Here we go. Hopefully this works. I'm gonna go look at it right now. Oh, they're so cute. I love the fluffy one.
The fluffy one is called Ghost,
Ghost, appropriate.
Forest. And the other one is Buster.
And Buster looks like such a Buster. That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's very funny because Buster, she always tried to hunt down the other one, so it's just completely appropriate. She's the Ghost Buster.
The Ghost Buster. That's amazing. Did you name them that way on purpose?
Yeah.
That was the idea. That's fantastic. That's super cute. They're adorable. All right, let's do a last call here from chat for questions, and then I have a few questions at least that I'd like to ask you. So maybe I'll throw one of those out right now. But and the people in chat can think about if they have one final question for you all.
There's a question about cats.
Oh,
it's
sure.
not about game anymore.
Go for it.
So, I'm a dog person myself. If I get a cat, what a word of advice? Oh, yeah. I think the no touchy the tummy it's not right for all the cats because
No.
Ghost really likes to be touched in the tummy, and the Ghost is for like a dog. It's very special. It's like he likes to lie down on your feet when you're sitting on the chair, and he just like yeah, exactly like a dog. But he's 7 kilos, very big ones. And I think that yeah, feed them or they will fed on you. That's the best.
It's a little
I
dark.
think piece of advice
Sure,
I can
just
just like.
keep them fed.
But they're evil creature. So if you treat them right, they will be very nice. But you have to remember that all cats are plotting against you, against humanity. That's what they do.
Just treat them as if they want to kill you, and it'll be fine.
Also, you own the dog, but the cat owns you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm terrible. So I have one question to interject right here. I think the EFJI control scheme that you guys have implemented to keep your fingers on the home row is very clever and generally works pretty well. But also, I'm still trash with it, and so sometimes I will resort to the WASD because it's just muscle memory. And I'm wondering do you have any data like that you collect or anything about how people, like which control scheme people prefer with your game? Do most people use the EFJI control scheme?
Usually, yeah, we can't control that, but usually when people don't like it, they insult us on Steam.
Of course they do.
And so we just have to see how many people complain about the control, and we can say those people didn't like the EFGI.
It gives you some idea. No, it makes perfect sense, and I think it is a very clever control scheme, considering that you're spending much of the game typing. But it does take a little bit of time to wrap your head around, and I'm still learning it clearly.
That reminds me of a very, very fun story. In Belgium, we have the Belgian video game open, and so we were a nominee for the category of I don't remember which category. That's a shame, I know. But during the event, just before the event, people were playing old games, and I saw a guy playing our game, so I wanted to chat with him. So I came by, just say hi, and do you enjoy a game? And he was like, yeah, but the controls are very, very weird. I was just like, no, they're not weird. It's just that your brain is not clever enough to adapt to it. But don't worry, it's gonna be okay. You just have to practice more. And then I ran out, but I was just like, yeah. The guy didn't. Yeah, he didn't feel like insulted or anything, so it was okay. But then I talked to someone else who was just like, oh, you just talked to a member of the jury. That's cool. What did you say? Oh my god.
No.
I said something horrible. So I came back to the guy. It was like, how is it going now? Did you practice? How is going your brain? And again, just again, because it's just me. And the guy was just like, it's going better, and you were true, and you can.
Oh, perfect.
My brain is adapting. And I was just like, oh, great, that's good. And the guy was like, when they went in deliberation to know who's gonna win, the guy fought for us. And after that, someone told me, I don't know what you did to that guy, but he fought for you. I was just like, yeah, I told him the truth.
He did appreciated not being babied. Being told that he needed to adapt. His brain wasn't good enough. That's a very funny anecdote. But it's true. It does. The more I'm playing it, the easier it gets. But if I leave it for a while and come back, I sort of have to relearn it a little bit. So it's but it is clever, I think. Sorry,
What
Thibaut?
I've seen on YouTube, it depends on people, and either they get that it's the home row and it's better for typing, and then they stick to it and try to learn it, or they just go back to WASD and just never think about it again.
Interesting.
And there's a mod on the workshop
Here.
to change it to
So much
remember the letters. It's ESDF
Oh.
to be on the home row but still have the WSD feeling. And for the next game, we plan to do ESDF and IGKL, so that both hands can be on the home row, but without having the read control.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense as well. I've noticed that you, as a studio, you seem very in tune and very responsive to your fans and to feedback about the game. And I mean, that's obviously part of success as a small studio, you know, interacting with your fans very directly. But it seems like you're maybe even better about it than others I've seen, or maybe it just seems something you prioritize. Has that been a really conscious decision for you as a studio?
Sophie will beat us if we don't respond to the community.
Happiness manager, my ass.
Sorry. Sorry, I was just like answering to the glumful.
Okay. That's quite alright.
It lives 4 years. Okay, so what was the question? I'm sorry.
It's okay. The question was just very briefly, I noticed that you are very attentive to your community and your fans and responding to
God, that was the question.
community feedback. And this is something that you clearly prioritize, I guess. Is that something that you well, it's a stupid question, but like you make a point of this, and does that bring up any challenges, I guess, is really what I was getting at. Like, do you have a hard time deciding how much to listen to your community, what to tune out, those sorts of things?
Yes. Yes, and sometimes I think that it's something that we are doing both together, Thibaut and I, especially for Epistory community, because Thibaut is is more like the second community manager of the thing, working hard on it, and he's very good at it. I mean, the guy is a programmer, he's talking to people. It's fantastic. And
You say that. There's a little bit of patronizing tone there.
Yeah. Should I remind you that I created Discord?
He knows me. He knows that he's one of my favorites. And yeah, of course.
That will type for me.
That's called cheating, but sure. That's fair. That's the programmer's solution. Okay, I had two more questions, I guess. Do either of you have a favorite mechanical keyboard switch? This is for Thibaut mostly, because I know he does.
Yeah, I don't have mechanical keyboard.
Okay. That's a shame. You should try it out.
Yeah.
They're pretty wonderful. Thibaut could probably convince you.
But I know I really love to type on them, but it's gotta be it's horrible because I really love this. So I want to type on every mechanical keyboard that I see, and if I had one on my desk at the studio, people would kill me because I would like to type everything that I see. Just
keep typing forever. That's okay though. If everyone has mechanical keyboards, you can all enjoy the clicky sounds together. What about you, Thibaut? I know the answer, but for everybody at home.
I love mechanical keyboards. It's since I tasted it, I cannot go back.
Exactly. They're lovely.
And one key for the win.
I was about to sneeze. I muted my microphone because a sneeze really ruins the ASMR vibes. But we're okay. I had a few people mentioning in chat that the stream just died for a moment there. I don't know why. I have very low dropped frames, but hopefully it's still working. Looks like it's back now. And sorry, Thibaut, you like the Cherry MX Browns, you were saying, yes?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Browns myself. Or Brown-like switches, the tactile type switches. Alright, thanks, Dex. Chair bless me. Thank you, Draconis. And Cassie. All right. One more question off the top of my head here. Is there a story behind the studio name, Fishing Cactus? Where does that come from?
Oh, there's just a lot of stories behind it. And I will tell you two and just pick the one you like.
Sure.
The first one is that like Belgium is like for video games. Belgium is like a desert, just like with no water, nothing.
Almost no game development
grows.
that takes place there.
Yeah, nothing grows in that desert, and so you have to be a cactus to survive. So we wanted to survive, and yeah,
very clever.
Game. So the other one is just like when when our manager decided to create Fishing Cactus, they had a very big party, and they get drunk, and there was a bottle of tequila with a cactus on it, and they decided to pick up Fishing Cactus for it.
I like both of those suggestions. Those are both of those pieces of Fishing Cactus lore. That's good. I think they're both part of my headcanon for Fishing Cactus now. Look at that, I finally solved the puzzle while just sitting here.
Yep, you
and
got it.
I lied. I did have one more question for you, actually. This was something that I was thinking about last night. And there was an article that I read recently on PC Gamer about indie developers who, when they work for so long on a game with often in relative isolation or with a small group of people, they finally put the game out, and different developers have different responses at that point. For some, they have a very hard time transitioning to from the creating a game to the supporting a game kind of situation. Some of them feel an intense sense of emptiness. Some of them feel a lot of anxiety now that the game's out there in the wild and everyone's poking and prodding it, seeing how they can break it. What was each of your experiences with releasing, Epistory, but any of your games for that matter? What was the feeling like in the studio, and how were the days following launch?
I remember quite just like perfection, quietly. The day when we released Epistory, we said, okay, it's released. No, it's not. Why is it not? That's weird. What happened? And the guy who was supposed to push the green button on Steam forgot to do it. So we were just like, oh my god, epic fail.
It's a bit anticlimactic, was it?
And no, the guy just has no name anymore. He's the guy who forgot to push that green name button.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And but then he pushed it, and but the game was not really well known, but not as well known as is it now. So we didn't expect a lot of sales for the first day, but it was quite decent.
Good.
And I think that even for support, it was quite good. We didn't have a lot of major bugs, just like a few of them, and we could fix it quite quickly. And it was more like helping people, and they were just like, "Hey, I'm missing a chest. Are you sure that that all the chests are accessible?" And then we used to ask them to send us their save file, checking. Yes, it's correct. It's just that you missed it.
This is user error.
And they were just like, oh, thank you for doing this. It's very kind of you. Just like, yes, we just wanted to make sure that not the bug. And it was not, so no. Go play it.
You're on your own now.
Yeah, you're on your own. And yes, it's just like people are just like quite nice, and they were happy to see that we were very responsive.
Yeah.
I think, isn't it, Thibaut? With I speaking aloud.
Yeah, but we had an early access, so all the major stuff was fixed before the release.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And what about Thibaut? Okay, well, maybe rolling it back even further then, when you put it out on early access, you know, how did you feel? Like, I guess what I'm getting at is like when you put the game out there in the wild for people to first start playing, was there some anxiety about it, or were you pretty confident about it already? You know, that you had something good?
Overall, it was just. I mean, for the early access, we knew that the next day we would have to continue working on it. So
Of course.
It wasn't really a big deal. But yeah, watching the forums and checking all YouTube stuff and stuff like that, it was
madness.
it was a bit strange at first. So
Yeah.
we were a bit anxious at the beginning, but with the response from the community about the game and the reviews that we were having, we were relaxed quite fast.
Yeah, I think that what was very great is the community we have. So the community that came, that has been created around a game like Epistory, that community is very, very awesome. They're just great, and it's like people were not complaining when they found bug. They were just like, I'd like to help, I found a bug. And they were explaining us exactly how they found it, and they were just like, I tried to reproduce it, but I couldn't, or I could doing this, and they were trying to help more than just reporting bugs.
That's very cool that there's such passion for what you're doing, you know, that they wanted to be involved in the development.
Exactly. That was exactly it. It was nice. They're cool. They're really cool.
Yeah, people complain about the internet and they say people are mean and nasty, and some of them are, but there's lots of good folks out there as well. People who want to help, people who are enthusiastic about the things that you were creating. It's pretty heartwarming when those people come together and support you.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to do like Call of Duty stuff, you know, with all the, the teenager angry at you.
Yeah, it's not the same public. I think that our public is more mature and quite educated.
And chill, like the game.
Yeah, and chill. Yeah, they're just like relax on the bug, but it's okay. We're gonna solve it together.
Very cool. It's partly I'm a firm believer in you foster and create the kind of community that you want to see, and it's reflective of kind of your attitudes to the way you approach what you do, whether that's making ASMR videos online or whether that's making games like Epistory. I think there's ways that you can create a certain kind of atmosphere that draws in the kind of people that you're talking about, you know, that are willing to help and that are going to be chill. And I think Epistory definitely lends itself to that, like you were saying. Very cool.
For YouTube, I've seen a YouTuber, I don't know if you know him, it's Avak.
I don't think I do, but...
He's doing, I mean, the community name is Dapperlings, you know, so the guy is dapper.
Oh yeah,
that
okay.
Helps, you know, if you foster that kind of feelings in the community, it helps a lot, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And everybody in chat, that's you guys. You help create this community as well, both here on my channel and over, you know, the Fishing Cactus folks who are coming here to hang out. So, Sophie and Thibaut, do either of you have any final words, closing statements, anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up here?
Sure, I can say to people that if you're interested in the next typing game, you can follow us on Steam or Twitter or Facebook or Discord, because we will start very soon to communicate about it. And first people arrive, first served. So we will just regularly do contests with the community and try to incorporate their ideas in the game. So if you want to be part of this wonderful experience, wonderful journey, because it's a journey, just don't hesitate to join us.
Absolutely. And if you have any links that you'd like me to share here, I'd be happy to pop them into the chat there if you want to. Again, they're going to get squashed if you try, but if you share them through Discord, I can copy paste in so that people can find you on your various social platforms. Not to suddenly put you on the spot there, but And Thibaut, do you have any final words that you'd like to say? Any little tease or anything like that about the upcoming game or anything?
Sure. So while Sophie is gathering all the links, I can say that Discord is of course the highest level. So if you come to the Discord and participate and stuff like that, for Algobots we did a beta for the game. So the people on Discord got the game early to help us find bugs and
exclusive access.
So if you are a prominent member of the community, we maybe, perhaps, do the same for the next game. We are not sure yet, but if the stars align, we can do it.
It's something that we would like to do, and we don't know yet, as Thibaut said, if it will be possible, but it's something that we really try to have.
I think it's really admirable that you make such an effort to engage with the community like you do. Like I said, I've just been shocked. I mean, the whole reason this stream at Q&A situation started in the first place was because Thibaut reached out on YouTube with a comment saying that if this was something that viewers would be interested in, we could set this up, and here we are. So you're very, very proactive about making these sorts of things happen, and I know that I'm sure your fans and the community really appreciates that as well. I'm just gonna share some of your links here.
I have a Google alert for Epistory. I watch almost everything. It's good that the game isn't more popular, because I would lose my life.
Yeah, exactly. Like I imagine you just kind of go and like Google it, as you say, just look around for things to watch and see and feedback. But even with the popularity that it has, which seems pretty considerable, that must be an immense task to try and stay on top of everybody streaming and putting up videos and all these kinds of things. It's quite the undertaking.
It's okay. It's maybe a few videos a week, so it's fine.
It's manageable. Okay. Very good. Well,
okay, and I don't have to work because usually Thibaut find them during the weekend.
He's doing your job for you.
The guy, yeah, exactly. The guy is a bot. You can find anything during the weekend and posting it during the weekend. And every Monday morning when I to my desk, I have already pre-prepared for my work.
That's incredible. That's passion right there. That's what we call that.
Exactly.
Very, very cool. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to, when the time's appropriate, finding out more about your next typing game, Typing 2. I'm already on your Discord and I'm already following you on Twitter, so I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that stuff. And I do believe I'll stream some more Epistory in the future, because people seem to enjoy it when I do it, and I think it's a good chill stream game. So, and then when the time comes, I would love to stream some of your typing game too as well. I think I look forward to that. Sophie and Thibaut, thank you so much for taking time. Yeah, thank you for initiating this. Thank you for making the time. I know it's late for you in Europe right now, but it means a lot that you took the time to come hang out and answer some questions. I have more questions that I could keep asking, but we could just go forever. So maybe I'll just ask you guys in private when I get the chance in future, or maybe we'll do this again sometime. We'll have to see, I guess. But thank you so much for coming out this afternoon or evening for you, and thank you to everybody in chat, everybody from the Fishing Cactus fanhood end of things, and also from my channel end of things. Thanks for coming out and asking your awesome questions today as well. Alrighty, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks to everyone.
Thanks all, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, I'm streaming some Skyrim here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So you can all come hang out, play some Skyrim. Sophie and Thibaut, you're welcome to come hang out as well if you want. But
I think I will be in my bed. But...
You probably will be. It's the middle of the night for Europeans, unfortunately.
It's 4 a.m. for us.
Yes, and we have some brave, intrepid European residents who do make it out for those streams, but I know it's very difficult. So anyway, all right, thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now, guys. Bye.